What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name's Nicole. I'm a person in long-term recovery. I'm also a person who utilizes MAT treatment. And this Thursday, I'm going to be celebrating 8 whole years sober. What? Can I get a motherfucking hey? Can I get a what? Can I get a whoop? I'm so fucking proud of myself. 8 freaking years, you guys. I remember when I first started coming into recovery, I never in a million years thought that I would be able to accomplish 8 years sober. I remember not thinking that I was going to make it that first year, but I knew that I had to. I knew that my son was depending on me, and if I didn't get sober, I was going to lose custody of him. So what I'm going to do today in this video is I'm going to share with you guys what I did to get sober and what I still do to this day to stay sober. So let's get into it. In July 2nd of 2015, Child Protective Services had left a note on my door, okay? And I had woke up that day, I went downstairs and I found this note on the door from the Department of Human Services. And at that moment in time, I knew right away that the jig was up. I didn't know any better, and I called them and they asked me to come down and submit to a drug test, so that's what I did. And I failed the drug test for opiates and benzodiazepines. Later on that evening, they came, they drug tested my husband. He failed for the same thing, only he had a prescription for the benzos, just not the opiates. So they ended up leaving our home and saying that they were going to put a protection plan in place. Well, that's not what they did. They came back the next day and they said that they had to take our son. And when this happened, you guys, I was devastated. I had already found a treatment center that would accept me, and I was ready to go into treatment and get the help that I needed. Okay? I went ahead and I got into treatment, and they wanted me to go to a treatment center where I could take my son with me. And so I was like, yeah, that's awesome. So I called the treatment center that they recommended, and this treatment center denied me because I had private pay insurance. So here I am, and I'm thinking I could take my son to the treatment center with me because they recommended this treatment center to me, right? Wrong. They wouldn't take me. So I went ahead and I moved forward with the treatment center that I had found myself, and I went into treatment that day. They asked me and my mother and father-in-law to bring my son to them at the CPS office. So me and my mother and father-in-law got in the car. I packed my son's bags, and I packed my own bags for detox. And we drove to the CPS office, and I gave custody over to a stranger, to a woman I'd never met in my whole entire life. Right before I handed my son over, I said, we're going to petition the court. My son needs to go with his grandmother and grandfather. And they said, okay, that's fine. And so I was under the impression when I was going into detox that my son would be able to stay with his Gigi and Papa. They filled out all the paperwork. I go into detox, and they called me a couple days later and told me that CPS told them that they could not take custody of my son because they were too old. Now, I've seen a lot of you guys, y'all have assumed that me and my mother and father-in-law were living under the same roof at this time, and we were not. In May of 2015, my mother and father-in-law had moved into a brand new home that they had just bought. And me and my husband took over the payments on the home that we all lived in together. And this was in July. So we were living in that home for 2 months without my mother and father-in-law. So I'm in detox. I get the word that my son can't stay with his Gigi and Papa, and I'm fucking livid. And that is when it just hit me, like, my son is depending on me. I've got to get better, and I've got to get out of here so I can be there for my baby. So I went through detox, and I completed that. I completed my rehab treatment, and you guys have heard all the little stories of the ups and downs that I had when I was in rehab. When I got out of rehab, my husband picked me up, and my husband had gotten on Suboxone. And I remember I was pissed. I was pissed at him because I felt like he was trying to manipulate the system. I felt like he was trying to stay getting high still. he said, babe, I have tried to get sober for the last 10 years. Me and my husband has so much in common. And I have never been able to stay sober until I tried MAT treatment. And so he told me it really helped me. So I said, you know what? I'm going to get on MAT treatment. And so I did. You guys, getting on Suboxone changed my life, and it saved my life, and I would not be standing here today in front of you right now making an 8-year sober birthday video if I hadn't got on MAT. I got on MAT. I already had a sponsor. I was going to meetings. I was going to 3 meetings a week. I was meeting my sponsor once every 2 weeks. We would meet and we would have lunch and we would go over our step work. And so I was diligently doing all the things that I had always been taught in treatment to do. Sponsor, step work, praying, meditation, gratitude lists. I was doing everything they said, but I said I need to do more. And so I added therapy into the mix. And when I tell you guys, doing therapy was the best decision I ever fucking made. It was the missing link. Therapy and MAT treatment were the missing links that helped me obtain and maintain sobriety. And I'm so fucking glad that I stepped out of my comfort zone and I did it. Because for so many years, what I did was I listened to what they taught me at treatment, which is get a sponsor, go to meetings, read your big book, pray and meditate, do your gratitude list, read your literature. And I just did those 12-step programs, right? I needed more help than what a 12-step program could offer me. And this time around, I'm so fucking glad that I made the change. And one of the people who inspired me to make that change was a therapist. He's a psychiatrist. His name is Dr. Michael Mancino. Dr. Michael Mancino was a psychiatrist that was over the treatment center that I was in. Okay, when I first met this man, I thought that he was the devil reincarnated because he pulled my card, because he called me on my bullshit, and I did not like it. But you know what? He's the one who told me, try MAT treatment. It is literally designed for people just like you, Nicole, who are chronically relapsing, haven't been able to maintain sobriety, get into therapy. He said, you have a lot of healing to do. You have a lot of growing to do. And at first that really offended me, but he was so right, and I'm so glad I listened to him. So my first year out of treatment, I was fighting for custody of Nathaniel. So like I said, I had my sponsor, I had my mentor, I had my therapist, I had my doctor, and I was just staying super diligent on making sure that I had my therapy appointments, my group meetings, my AA meetings, and my sponsorship meetings. And I was just following through. But the things that I did at home on my own that helped me stay sober is every night before I go to bed, I asked for guidance. I said, please guide me, help me have a good sleep tonight, and help me stay in the right mindset so when I wake up in the morning, I want to stay sober. Every morning when I would wake up, I would ask, take my will in my life, guide me in my recovery, and show me how to live. Clean and serene is what I would say because it rhymed. So if you can write that prayer down, it's super short, but it's just, take my will in my life, guide me in my recovery, and show me how to live clean and serene. I would start my day off with asking that. Then I always, and I still do it to this day, make a gratitude list of at least 5 things that I'm grateful for that day. Even when I'm in the worst mood in the whole wide world, I make a gratitude list. Even when I'm struggling with the depression, I make a gratitude list. At least I have the wherewithal to realize that I'm in depression. At least that I have the gift of self-awareness to know that I'm struggling. Because there was a time when I was in active addiction where it just felt hopeless, where I felt like I would never come up out of that hole. And I didn't have the gift of self-awareness to even think, well, at least you're having these feelings. At least you can still feel. At least you're still alive. So every morning, I still do that to this fucking day. Another thing that I have done since I started my journey is I connect with other men and women specifically, but sometimes men, that are in recovery, and I have conversations daily with people in recovery who I look up to. I have conversations with people who look up to me, and I stay connected. I stay connected with other people in recovery that help me stay accountable. 4 years into my sobriety, about 3.5 into my sobriety, I met Dr. B. And he became one of my greatest supporters and one of my greatest assets to my sobriety. He is somebody that I look up to, that helps me when I'm struggling. He helps me so much. I can call him anytime, day or night, and say, this is what's going on. This is what I'm doing. Do you think I need to do this? Should I change this? Da, 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 da. And he helps me because he genuinely has my best interest at heart. I still do therapy to this day, 8 years later. At the very beginning, I went monthly. About 2.5, 3 years into my sobriety, I changed it. Oh no, I went bi-weekly. About 2 years into my sobriety, I changed it to monthly. Now I go quarterly. Okay, and it's just like a check-in. And sometimes I have things I'm struggling with and I want to talk to a therapist about it. But most of the time, I don't wait until it reaches that point. I talk about what I'm going through all the time, and I don't care if people judge me for that. I don't care if people think I talk too much. It is the very reason why I'm still sober today and making this video with you right now, because I snitch on my fucking addiction. I keep on snitching on my motherfucking addiction. Okay, anytime I feel triggered, anytime I feel overwhelmed, anytime I'm upset, anytime I'm sad, pissed, angry, triggered, anything, I talk about it. And that helps me process that bullshit and get it out of me so it doesn't have power over me anymore. You know, and that is a huge asset and has helped me stay sober. And I do know that a lot of people see that as a threat, because a lot of people don't have the ability to talk about how they're feeling, or they feel so much shame that they don't do it. And so they struggle and they internalize it and stuff it down and stuff it down and stuff it down until they end up busting. But not me, baby. Not me. Because staying sober is my #1 priority. Without my sobriety, I won't have my son. Without my sobriety, I won't have my husband. Without my sobriety, I won't have my job. Without my sobriety, I won't have this place to live in. Without my sobriety, I won't have all of you guys. Like, I would be a mess if I wasn't staying sober. And I'm a mess sober. So you can just imagine what I was like in active addiction. Okay? So, snitching on my addiction is one of my main coping skills. It's one of the main things I do in my relapse prevention toolkit. And I have a toolkit full of coping skills. But being able to talk to others and process the way I feel is the easiest and the quickest way that I can change my thinking and change the way I feel and get out of that nasty headspace. Okay, another thing that I do that helps me stay sober is I journal. I write a lot. I write about my daily activities. I write about future plans that I have. I write out story times of things that I remember so I can come on here and tell you guys. And to me, writing is just another form of snitching on my motherfucking addiction, because I'm getting it out of me and I'm taking the power away from that, you know? Another thing that I do that helps me stay sober is I try to remember where I've come from. I know I do. I remain humble, okay? I have humility. I don't let my britches get too big. I struggle every single day. I might not be using drugs, but I'm not perfect. You know, I struggle with binge eating disorder. I struggle with social media addiction. And for those of you guys that don't know, social media is my job. But I still am working very hard to make sure that I have a happy balance between social media and my every single day life. And these are things that I'm aware of and self-aware of, so I can make changes. If I wasn't self-aware and I couldn't identify those things, that would be an issue, because I can't make changes if I can't identify it and admit that I have the problem. You know, and so I stay super duper open-minded and I listen to criticism, and that has helped me over the last 8 years to stay sober for 8 years. You know, I listen to other people's opinions. I listen to people's opinions that care about me. Let me change that up for you. I listen to people's opinions who have my best interest at heart, who care about me, and how I know are looking out for me. I don't just listen to what anybody says, because anybody can form an opinion and say, oh, this or that, and they have no idea. You know, but that has really helped me over the last 8 years, is to listen to other people's feedback and to not be closed-minded, you know, not close myself off from other people's ability to help me be better. So I'm trying to think, is there anything else that I do? So when I say meditation, I do a lot of reading. I like to read inspirational books. Like, one of my favorite ones is Melanie Beattie's book about codependency. I learned a lot about myself when I was reading that book in my relationship with my husband, and I struggled. What I have since learned since then is that I just really loved my husband, and when he relapsed in 2020, I didn't want him to die, but that's a whole nother video for a whole nother day. I made it through 2020 with my husband. He relapsed in March of 2020, and he didn't get sober until December of 2020, and I made it through that, and I stayed sober. Okay, so if I can make it through that, I can make it through anything. If I can make it through living in a home where I was depressed and unhappy and still stay sober through depression, I can make it through anything. And so I'm sharing all this with you guys today to tell you that you can make it through anything. You have to take your power back. Okay, you have to take your power back from drugs and alcohol, because they don't run you. You run you. You have the ability to change and be better and never go back to that old life, okay? I'm telling you guys, I know what it's like to feel hopeless. I know what it's like to feel like you can't stay sober. Because that was me. That was me. I started trying to get sober in 2005, and I didn't get sober until 2015. Okay, so I know what it's like to fail over and over and over again. I know what it's like to feel like, am I just fucking a piece of shit? Is sobriety just not meant for me? But I'm telling you guys, I tried something different. I stepped outside of the traditional 12-step Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous treatment center box, and I tried MAT. I got involved in therapy, and I used the positive things from those types of programs and combined them with my MAT journey and my therapy journey, and it saved my fucking life. So if you're like me and you've been struggling to get sober and you've been trying over and over again for over 10 years and you just keep on relapsing, it might be time to try something different. And just because it's different doesn't mean that it's wrong. Okay, and I had to learn that, because I used to beat myself up because my way was different. I felt like it wasn't good enough, and people, they'll make you feel like that. But you know what? Those same people, if you relapse and die, they won't be nowhere to be found. So do what's best for you. And I hope this video inspires you guys. I came over here because I wanted to show y'all. It's Paco the sober dog. Doot, doot. Paco, let me see. Daddy's home. You want to come see him? Oh, come here. Oh, I just wanted to show you guys. It's Paco the sober dog. I love you. He loves you guys too. You love me? Okay. His little tail was wagging. Okay. Love you guys.